Somebody wanted to know how I got into chemical engineering and what a racket it must be if McKetta could get into it. But from the time I studied chemistry in high school in 1930, I wanted to learn how to make chemicals from coal. Because I read in the book by Dr. Porter in Coal Carbonization how chemicals were made from coal, and it was the critter called chemical engineer who made that. And I was not erudite student. That wasn't the reason I was studying this, but I hated to think that I was going to go in the coal mines, which is the only possible job we could get in the Pennsylvania area from which I came. And I didn't like the idea of working 475 feet underground with pick and shovel. In those days, we had no motorized material. We didn't even have fan blowers. And you'd have to work 8 hours a day. And 1 week, I made $3. That was the highest I ever made in 3 years. $3 a week. I'm just going to skip through this rapidly. So what I did was each night I would write with pencil and paper because we had no typewriters or any other means in those days. I wrote some 54 letters, one to each chairman of a chemical engineering department whose address I had. And would ask them if they would enroll me and if they would give me a job because we had to eat. This is in 1932. Of the 54 letters that I wrote, which incidentally you have to write maybe 2 or 3 letters a day is about all you can write. So it took me a month or so to get 54 letters. I got no answer to 53 of them. On the 54th letter was a letter from the president of the college, and the college was Tri-State College in Angola, Indiana. And he said, if you are admitted, we will find you a job so that you can go to school. It's a real pleasure to me that the department now at Angola, the school is now called Trine, T-R-I-N-E University in Angola, Indiana. And I'm so proud that the chairman of the McKetta Department of Chemical Engineering is with us tonight, Johnny Wagner. And when I tell you how proud I am, I'm so proud of the chairman of UT Chemical Engineering, who was one time my student, and then later has a fabulous program with his graduate degree from Princeton. Tom Trustee, where are you? There is Tom. Now, as I said, 53 of the chairman of presidents of chem engineering departments did not answer my letter. And during the 60s and 70s, it was very interesting that 49 of these 53 offered me presidency at their school. And that included Carnegie Mellon. It was called Carnegie Tech when I first contacted him. The University of Toledo, Drexel, Rensselaer, Polytech, Penn State, and several others. President Handy of Trine University said that if you are accepted, we will get you a job. So I left my coal mines. By that time, I'd spent 3 years in the mines. It was terrible. It was worse than I dreaded. So I left that area with $10.50 in my pocket and hitchhiked from the Pittsburgh area to Fort Wayne area. Angola is near Fort Wayne, Indiana. This little 20-year-old coal miner went to the administration office to see Dr. Rausch, who was the registrar, because I got a little book from President Handy, told me the list of their officers. But the secretary said, McKetta, no, the president wants to see you first. And she took me across the hall to see President Handy. And this great guy had this young, no-good chemical engineer. And he greeted me so warmly and talked to me so nicely. And he personally escorted me into Dr. Rausch, the registrar. And he said, this is the young coal miner that I talked to you about. See if you can help him. Dr. Rausch said that I would be working on the NYA program. And I believe it means National Youth Administration or something like that, which was a governmental affair. And that I would work 20 hours a week and I would be paid 20 cents per hour. Are you thinking? I'm going to work above ground in front of God and all that, and I make $4 a week. The highest I ever made in the coal mine was $3. What a racket. Then Dr. Rausch said, I want you to meet a landlady named Mrs. Burt Nichols. She has rooms for rent. So I went right next to the campus. It was right next to the campus, and there was that lovely Mrs. Nichols. She's very old. She may have been 35. And she said she charged $2.50 a week for a room. Or if you were single, if you were a double, it was $2. So naturally, I chose the $2. And Mrs. Nichols said, John, Frank, whatever his name was, graduated last term. He would help me paint and cut the grass and do these kind of things. Do you do that? And I said, yes. And she said, well, then you don't have to pay room rent. I'll give you the room rent free. Are you with me on that? Making money to be And so I then was through with her. Incidentally, of the $4 a week I made, National Youth Administration, $2 went directly to the school for tuition. And the other $2 you got to waste away. So I went down to get a cup of coffee at some little coffee shop. And outside the coffee shop was an old man, must have been 35 or 40, who was painting a sign saying, dishwasher wanted. So I asked him for the job as dishwasher, and how much do you pay? And he said, I pay nothing. This place, this getting to be a racket, isn't it? And one of our customers, where's my John Wagner again? Is there a Dr. Oyer in Angola now?
Nothing.
Well, Dr. Oyer at that time would come in for coffee and a cheese sandwich, and so he just said, Johnny, would you clean my office every Saturday afternoon for 50 cents? Are you adding more? So that was just fun. Roy Bodie was a great trumpeter and had a dance band. And he needed a second trumpet for his band, and I played the trumpet. And he said, for Wednesday and Saturday night, I will pay you $1 a night if you will play second trumpet following it. And I did that for maybe about a year, and then I started my own 12-piece band that I called JJKK, Johnny J and his Campus Collegians. And I kept that going until the day I graduated from Tri-State. So in 1937, I left Tri-State. I had a wonderful education. I had $310 in my pocket. How do you like that? Remember the $10 I came with just a few years ago? Professor Gerald Moore, who was my professor of chemical engineering, got me a job with a company called Michigan Alkali Company. You knew it as Wyandotte Chemicals. And they had a small unit of making chemicals from coal. All they would do is destructively burn coal and then save the aromatics and stuff like that. And I worked in that area for several years. And then you knew by that time that chemicals were going to come from gas and oil. And then I heard that some critter in Ann Arbor named Otto Katz, who was president of AIChE, knew something about making chemicals from gas. And his boss, George Granger Brown, was also in that area. So I went to Ann Arbor, and in the spring of '41, I left Michigan Alkali to become a graduate student at Ann Arbor. And thank God I did, because 2 years later I met that lovely Pinky of mine who gave me such a marvelous life for 69 years. We lost her just 2 years ago. So, about that time, just to cut this short, I'm going to try to keep this under 2 hours. I made the wonderful decision about that time to accept an offer from the University of Texas. That is where the gas and oil was. There was a company named D.O.W. who built a huge plant in the town called Freeport. So where else would you go if you were interested in chemicals from gas? So I made the choice, because I knew I wanted to teach. I would go with the University of Texas at Austin. And my aim, incidentally, while I was at Ann Arbor, George Brown and Don Katz kept me busy all the time as teaching assistant or instructor in their courses, as Peter has done in his. My aim was to help my students in every way as much as I received from Tri-State University. But I was surprised. A couple of the faculty members in UT Austin Chemical Engineering, Bill Cunningham and Ken Colby, both very active in AIChE, were way ahead of me helping students. They would lend them money. They would do things for them, help them in ways that students needed help. And how wonderful it was to be part of a culture where students are first. And what friendships we enjoyed. Our department was like a big family and always remained so long after the student graduated. And our motto for our department is, the student you befriend becomes a friend forever. And if you don't believe that, ask many of my students in this room who are very, very close to each faculty member they ever had. In 1970s, the American Society for Engineering Education awarded me the Lamé Teaching Award as the outstanding engineering teacher in the United States. And when I accepted that award, I made these statements, and I'll finish with these statements. And I almost have to read these. When one accepts a position as a university faculty member, he or she should expect to write proposals for research, for equipment, and special projects, to publish articles, reports, papers, and books, to keep up to date in their professional field, to serve on councils, boards, committees, and to maintain the best possible relations with the alumni, with the legislators, with business leaders and industry of the region. In short, to be a responsible member of the community and participate in its activities. But, and my butt was in size 3, but we all know that these many important activities must never overshadow our student or our concern for our student. If our responsibilities to and our concern for the student ever become secondary, we would be violating the trust we accepted when we joined the faculty. Even though I am now retired at 97.5 years old, I have the great pleasure of enjoying the closeness of my ex-students. They continue to be part of my family. And many of you present in this room are part of the McKetta family, and you know it. And you've always known it. I call each one of you on your birthday every year. It's kind of rewarding and kind of sad. Rewarding because I had 3,125 names on the first list. Sad because that list has gone down to 1,845 because of the loss of my students. And these are all members of my family. Many of you have contacted me so many times during the past years. Last year, 2012, I had 155 lunches or dinners with you guys. You're in touch with me because I'm part of your family. Can you see why I'm the luckiest faculty member alive? Thank you very much for being with me. 57 years ago, I sat in my first chemical engineering class. And little did I realize that I was sitting at the feet
someone who is going to become a true legend in our profession, in the scientific and academic world. So many awards, so many accomplishments, but most of all, he's been a friend. You know, he's received many medals, plaques. If you go into his office or if you go into his home, you find cups, you find plaques, you find medallions, you know, you name it. And we were trying to say, you know, what is it that maybe Johnny has not received in all these years? Of course, he used to make a lot of trips to New York when he was president. In 1962, he was president of AIChE. And in his book, 75 Years of History, where they talk about the past presidents, he comments about New York and how far north it is and all those things about how cold it was. But, you know, I said, I told Stephanie, I said, you know, Stephanie, I bet there's one thing that he doesn't have. If you've ever traveled internationally, you know that this famous blue bag and blue box from Tiffany's is sort of symbolic of, I need some help. You hold that, I'll pull this. Okay, got it.
Got it.
You may have to destroy the bag, get the box. Okay. So we thought, you know, everybody recognizes Tiffany box. And we said, that's probably one thing he doesn't have. So Johnny, we have to present to you tonight a blue Tiffany box. It feels a little heavy. I think it's something there besides just a box. So,
Must be money.
so why don't you take a look at that and let's see what we have. It's the Tiffany crystal apple engraved with the AIChE logo, presented to John J. McKetta, President, 1962. Trustee of the AIChE Foundation, and most of all, a friend. John?